Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to break down the key tactical themes in Barcelona's 3-2 win over Athletic Bilbao. When we break down the game and we do look at the board, we have Athletic Bilbao in a 4-4-2 and Barcelona in a 4-3-3. So first, we're going to look at how Ronald Koeman's side did approach this game and how they were able to get into good attacking areas, and then we'll show you some examples. So what we end up seeing on the board is Athletic Bilbao in a 4-4-2, and they ended up dropping off into two banks of four. When we start from the front, you have Inaki Williams and Raul Garcia ahead of Longley and Araujo, but what they were tasked to do in that midfield zone was to sit in between Sergio Busquets and block off the passing lane in towards him. That leaves Vesga and Vencedor in a midfield battle with Frenkie de Jong and Pedri, and Muniain and DeMarcos would be tasked with pushing out to close down Jordi Alba and Serginho Dest. Messi was playing in a central role with Griezmann and Dembele out in the wider areas, and what we often saw from Messi was that he would drop off ahead of the Bilbao midfield bank to get on the ball, and that's when you would see Dembele and Griezmann tuck into narrow positions into the gap between the fullbacks and the center backs, and then that would allow the fullbacks in Dest and Jordi Alba to push forward. For the most part, we would see Dembele in a narrow position ahead of Yuri, and that would allow Dest to push forward on the overlap, but if Messi dropped off deeper into an inside right position to pick up the ball ahead of Muniain, then you would see Dembele in that gap between the left back and the Athletic Bilbao center back. So as you could see, with Messi in that deeper zone, he has runners in Dembele and Griezmann occupying the gaps between the fullbacks and the center backs, and because of Bilbao's narrow 4-4-2 shape, Dest and Jordi Alba were pushing forward to attack space beyond Muniain and DeMarcos because their fullbacks were forced to tuck in narrow to help out the center backs with Dembele and Griezmann. With Griezmann predominantly situated in that narrow inside left gap, that's where we saw Dembele often dropping off deeper to pick up the ball ahead of Muniain to encourage Dest forward to attack Yuri. That's when you would see Messi in that gap between Yuri and Inigo Martinez. And what would happen here was that Dembele and Dest would often combine to push Dest forward beyond the left back or to get Dembele into a goal-scoring position. Meanwhile, when we shift to the midfield zone, Bilbao's base 4-4-2 shape ensured that Marcelino's men were able to mark out the Barcelona trio. Like I said, they had Inaki Williams and Raul Garcia in between Sergio Busquets, and the manner in which Ronald Koeman looked to overcome that was by having Busquets or Frenkie de Jong dropping in between the center backs to create a 3v2 advantage, and that ensured that Barcelona always had a spare man able to build out of the back. Let's say Busquets dropped between the two center backs, then de Jong would hold the center of the pitch, and we often saw Pedri moving into an advanced position in that pocket of space between Vencedor and DeMarcos, and that's when he would look to push into the gap between Kappa and Unai Nunez. And the manner in which Barcelona were able to punish this Bilbao side was through the overlapping runs out in the wider areas, specifically between Dembele and Dest, and the fact that Dembele was able to often occupy two defenders when he pushed out into those wider areas. And the other key factor to Barcelona's success was witnessed against Huesca through the midfield runs of de Jong and Pedri, and once again they were vital here in Barcelona claiming all 3 points. Initially, we have Dembele receiving the ball ahead of Muniain, with Dest making an overlapping run across Yuri, while Messi begins to make a run off Inigo Martinez's shoulder. Messi receives Dembele's pass in right half space ahead of the Bilbao center back, where he notices Griezmann prepared to run across Unai Nunez and Dest breaking into the Bilbao box beyond Yuri. Griezmann receives Messi's pullback ahead of Unai Nunez, and rather than attempting to turn and shoot on goal, he lays it off to an unmarked Dest, who forces the Bilbao keeper into a save. Minutes later, it's Messi ahead of the Bilbao midfield bank, and he slides the ball across a narrow Muniain for Dembele ahead of Yuri, and that's when Dest instantly pushes forward to create a 2v1 overload. Dest's overlapping run forces Yuri to hold his position as Dembele carries the ball towards the box, and before Muniain can step in to make a challenge, he fires a low effort on goal that forces the Bilbao keeper into a save. And even on the left-hand side, we witnessed Dembele receiving the ball from De Jong ahead of DeMarcos and Kappa, where he locates Jordi Alba signaling for the ball in left half space. Dembele ends up splitting both Bilbao center backs to play in Jordi Alba into left half space, and with Unai Nunez shifting across to provide cover pressure, the Barcelona left back opts to fire a low effort on goal that is pushed away. And then we could shift to the deep midfield runs from De Jong and Pedri that did play a significant role in the outcome of this game. First, we could look to Barcelona's equalizer, and in the build-up to the goal, we witnessed Messi receiving the ball in a deep inside left position, with Pedri darting between Vencedor and DeMarcos into the Kappa and Unai Nunez gap, while De Jong runs off Raul Garcia towards the Bilbao penalty area. Messi's delivery into the box should be covered by the Bilbao keeper, with De Jong darting between Inigo Martinez and Yuri, while Unai Nunez and Kappa don't track Pedri's run into the Bilbao box. What happens next is Messi's lofted ball into the box is misjudged by the Bilbao keeper, and it results in De Jong continuing his run between Yuri and Inigo Martinez towards the byline to direct the ball to an unmarked Pedri. That means that the ball did float over Unai Nunez, and with Kappa not tracking Pedri's run into the box, he was able to nod De Jong's pullback into the open net. If we shift the build-up to Barcelona's second goal, once again it's Messi receiving the ball ahead of the Bilbao midfield bank, and Pedri is already beyond DeMarcos and Vencedor and darting between Kappa and Unai Nunez. Messi ends up splitting the Bilbao midfield duo and Kappa and Unai Nunez for Pedri, who takes his touch backwards towards the edge of the box, and you could see Messi continuing his run beyond Vesga towards goal. Pedri ends up backheeling the ball to Messi at the edge of the box to take two Bilbao defenders out of the game, and it allows Messi to curl his first time effort into the back of the net. And even when we look to the second half, Dembele played a key role down the right-hand side, and we saw some positive runs from Antoine Griezmann to get into good attacking positions. When we focus on Dembele in particular, his ability to drag two markers towards him allowed space for Messi to get on the ball and create quality goal-scoring chances, and that was simply down to the fact that Marcelino didn't instruct Muniain to track the movement of Serginho Dest, and that forced Vesga to shift across to help Balenciaga, the substitute, cope with Dembele. The logic behind Marcelino having Muniain stay higher up the pitch was so that he could serve as a legitimate counter-attacking threat in transition, but with Vesga shifting across to help out Balenciaga, that ensures that now when Messi receives a pullback from Dembele, he simply has to win a 1v1 with Vencedor to create a quality chance. When we look to the first example, it's Dembele played in by Messi down the right channel where he's closed down by Balenciaga and Vesga, and you witness Muniain positioned higher up the pitch, while De Jong is occupying Inigo Martinez, and that creates the pass back option to an unmarked Messi ahead of Vencedor. When Dembele pulls the ball back to Messi, it places him in a 1v1 with Vencedor, and here Messi identifies Griezmann beginning to dart between Kappa and Unai Nunez into the Bilbao box, and you have Pedri ahead of those two Bilbao defenders. While Messi's ball over the top for Griezmann's run was overhit, it still took out two Bilbao defenders out of the game, and Griezmann did well to nod the ball back to an unmarked Pedri at the edge of the box, and that nearly created another Barcelona goal. Shortly after that, it was Dembele again closed down by Balenciaga and Vesga in a 1v2 situation in right half space, with Muniain not tracking back or closing Dest. This allowed Dembele to pull the ball back across Vencedor for Messi, which placed him in a 1v1 situation. Dembele's pullback to Messi results in him having enough space to wrap the ball around the late stepping Vencedor, but his shot bounced off the post. And finally, when we look to the build-up to Barcelona's third goal, once again it stems from Dembele being in a 1v2 situation with Vesga shifting over, and you could see Messi positioning himself central beyond Muniain. Messi receives Dembele's pass beyond Muniain and ahead of Vencedor, and once again he's placed in a position where he can shoot, But this time what he ends up doing is that he ends up sliding the ball out to Jordi Alba. Alba receives the ball from Messi. He's ahead of DeMarcos and Kappa, and he ends up sliding it across the Bilbao defenders into left half space for the overlapping Griezmann, and this play results in Messi running off Vesga towards the box. When Griezmann is approached by Kappa, he locates Messi running off Vesga into left half space, and Griezmann slides the ball across Kappa and Vencedor for Messi to fire a first-time effort into the top corner to kill off the game. Hi everybody, thanks for watching, and subscribe here for your latest tactical analysis and daily commentary on the InnerViews show. And if that wasn't enough, don't forget you could find more organic, unfiltered soccer/football analysis on the InnerViews podcast, the best soccer/football podcast in the world, available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and any Android apps on your Android devices.